Rod's got Patrick's.
Oh yeah, you might want to
Rod's is over there, and we might want to pull Josh's.
Okay, good evening. Passing the name tags here. Welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee meeting on March 7th, 2024. We are at Memorial Hall and Town Hall. This is our 25th meeting of fiscal 2024. And I need to read this announcement. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location posted, and it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the link in the agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chairs, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as noted. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28, Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/WestboroughTV. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed by Westborough TV, and we thank them for their support. Okay, tonight we're going to start off with our school department and Amber Bach, superintendent, and Anita, you're going to be up here too, right? Anita Patel, our finance director for schools.
Hello. As always, it's so good to be here. Amber Bach, 10 Arch Street, Superintendent of Schools, and Anita Patel will be joining me. I'm going to break the presentation in just to a couple pieces. So Anita has an ankle that's still recovering from a major break. So what I'd like to do is, I think our presentation is really short. We sent a lot of information to you ahead of time. I'll go through the presentation just to frame what we want to cover. And then Anita will come up and we'll just blow it wide open for all sorts of discussion and questions. Are you comfortable with that?
Sounds great.
So it'll be a quick overview and then we can go back into slides as we need to. And I'm going to be basically giving you an overview of our capital projects. So I'll step through and off we go. So we have 5 projects plus the Hastings roof project. I separate those out because the 5 projects came through capital and have been in process where we've worked collaboratively with the capital planning committee to spread out all of the projects in our 5 and 10-year long range plan. And so the 5 projects were selected to be brought forward as part of the pacing of how they wanted to manage all the capital projects. And then the Hastings roof issues led to a DCAM request and that additional project coming on. So we're going to hop right into it. We're going to provide numbers tonight and give you an overview. You've heard about each of these projects. We were waiting today to open the bid. Yeah. We cracked the bid at like 1 o'clock. You had been carrying, and the capital committee had carried $5 million as a placeholder for this project. And I'm going to talk about the pieces of what's in the project. When we opened the bid today, the low bid was for $2,149,000. I don't know who was happier, Christy or me, or Steve Durrett or any of us. We're very pleased to see that number come in very advantageously. That is the project that unlocks the capacity for us to move beyond the cycle of problematic repair for Hastings by doing the ADA compliance pieces that allow us to make sure that we are compliant to accessibility so that we can then do any future projects and projects we've been waiting to do. And we're going to step through what those projects are and make sure we answer any questions about them. But this ADA article focuses on replacement of doors, single doors, double doors in classrooms and restroom areas, replacing sinks in classrooms and in workrooms. Those sinks need to be lowered, widened, and be wheelchair accessible. Replacing bathroom toilets, partition countertops, reconfigurations of walls in the kindergarten rooms, and replacement of fixtures. adding exterior ramps and landings outside of the exit doors to the building from the classroom spaces and any of the exit spaces other than the big main entrances, which are already compliant. Regrading exterior doors, modifying grab bars, stage access upgraded for wheelchair accessibility with a lift, and a variety of other small pieces built in. We did send you that bid document for everything that's included in there. You can see there's a big laundry list of items, but these are the bigger highlights that are incorporated in this bid. So what does that tell us about the motion that we will be bringing forward to town meeting? And we're seeking your approval to support this project. We opened the bid today, and as I said, it came in at the $2,149,000. We are adding $300,000 of contingency, which is 14. Feels appropriate for a project like this where you tend to bump into lots of small and large issues that could be problematic. We think it's a well-scoped project, but that gives us a comfortable contingency. Our total project request would be $1,074,000 because we have existing funds in an article available for $1,375,000. In past town meetings, we had approved HVAC money. We then widened the scope of that to allow us to do ADA work. We did that. We used that for the design, for the bid documents and everything that brings us to this point. And we have $1,375,000 to put against that total. So we would be coming to town meeting in a much better place than we were, thinking that it would be $5 million to do the ADA work and be requesting just over $1 million. We are finalizing those bid assessment discussions by Monday. They were just opened today. I can tell you that the low bid of the $2,149,000 was the low, and the high bid was $3,461,000 of the bids. And we're just kind of withholding names and documentation until we do all our finalizations. It's pretty much hot off the presses. That's Article 1 of the 5.
Is the, I don't know.
Let me go through them and then we'll hop back because I think I want to
just about that
include
one
her and I don't want her to stand up here the whole time. Mill Pond roof, we carried that at 1.1 million. We opened up that bid today. It was $972,000. We added 10% contingency, and that article will come in just under the number we had been carrying as anticipated. Again, we can talk about the scope of this article. You've heard us talk about it before. This is the seal coating that will allow us to take a roof that is 23 years old, give us an advantageous extension on the warrant, and give us 20-year warranty on this large sectioning of roof that keeps us from needing to be back here for another big roof project for quite a while. We have 3 design articles. These are rough order of magnitude where we decided we were carrying basically, I think it's 12 or 13% of the estimated cost of each of these projects. And we worked with the capital committee and the general scope of project to ascertain what we thought were the proper design costs for these projects. We broke them into 3 different articles because they're each kind of uniquely different in what's being done to the roof, and so they're 3 different separate bids. Doesn't mean that people couldn't bid it, all of them, but we broke them apart, seeking most advantageous opportunity that somebody could come in and give us a low bid on one of the scope, or they could bid on all of them. The first is that exterior rim design. We've talked about that. We plan on encapsulating that in a metal cap, which will be both, I think, attractive and durable and give us a much extended life of another 30 or 40 years on that rim. It's currently 52 years old. It's a concrete rim and it's beginning to deteriorate. Section C of the high school wing is available for the restoration that we just talked about for Mill Pond. It's a large section of roof. It's the newest section of roof, and taking the opportunity now, it's 22 years old, taking that while it's in good condition to use the restoration project process on it, will give us hopefully that 20-year warranty available for that large section of roof. Again, it's not going to be cheap, but it's going to be much cheaper than if we had to do a roof replacement. And then sections of the high school A and B are for a replacement, and that's for the design, which is again that's 52 years old and needs to be fully replaced. Those are those 3 design articles. And then lastly, we have the Hastings roof regarding the failure of the Hastings roof. You know, we have shown you pictures. We have many more of kind of the extensive water infiltration. We all know water is not our friend when it's coming through ceilings. You know, we worked really hard to establish Hastings as a safe setting. You know, years and years ago, it had suffered from mold. And so water and buildings don't go well together when they come in through the interior. We need to move forward to replace this roof. And you begin facing material damage on the inside to your walls, and then you lose your capacity to manage keeping the building safe. So, you know, we put that out to bid. We sought a DCAM waiver, which basically is an emergency waiver. It's the same process we used at Armstrong. It lets you shorten the process and go directly to bid as long as you have biddable documents. We did, because we had already moved forward on the Hastings roof design, made it advantageous to go for the DCAM waiver. They awarded it to us, and you put out the call for bids, and the bid came in at $3,758,000. We layered in 10% contingency, and that article comes forward at the $4,142,800. So that is all of our articles. Here is the Hastings roof. It's 80,000 square foot area of roof. And you also know you have these pods where you have these interior courtyards. One of the changes to this roof is that we will be putting safety rails around these. Upon inspection, when we looked at the quality of the roof and also a full replacement, these are basically fall pits for firemen on the roof in a fire situation where smoke can obscure the boundary of an open pit and they could walk right into it. When they came and did the assessment, they said we needed to put guardrails around the edge, so that's built into this project. This is the Hastings article that I talked about, and then we'll come back to this. You've had this slide ahead of time. We just went in and changed this number so that it's exact against what's available. This shows you, and you had wanted information on all the projects that we've done. This is the scope of memory around that work. And you can see here that already borrowed cash available article. This is the one that we would be pushing against the ADA total. These other small cash items will be used for ongoing sprinkler inspection, and this we use for materials and annual inspection of the geothermal. So these will close out over time. There's still available borrow on these others to use for the HVAC when we get there. So we'll leave those as available to borrow further down the road. But they will sit and be available once we get the ADA done. We would have then the capacity to move forward to start making progress on the HVAC. And I believe, is it the last one, Anita? We didn't even put a little question slide. We're so efficient. All right, so I'm going to open it up to discussion. Again, it's very succinct, and we'd open it up for questions.
So, Anita, if you'd like to, you can sit up here because you can still use a microphone without having to stand if you'd like to, because there's plenty of extra chairs.
She's a warrior, so.
Okay. So I'm just going to start with a first question before I get everybody's input was, is the motion for the first article you spoke about, the ADA, MAAB, will the motion be 1074?
Yep. I already called Christy and I sent her this presentation, and I told her that as soon as we did the bid confirmations and walked through everything and cross-referenced everything, that I would confirm that number again with her on Monday.
Who's got questions? Gene.
So I guess it's a question about Mill Pond
Yep,
article.
yep.
So I'm currently thinking that I'm going to recommend against this, and the reasoning basically, and partially in an effort to save funds this year, tax dollars this year. You know, it's a 27-year-old roof. I understand the desire to extend its life, but we're talking about a 20-year warranty, and the roofs that are failing are in their 50-plus years old. Am I missing something? I mean, is there a... I thought before I voted against it, I thought I would really throw it out there and just say, talk me into voting in favor of it.
No, I look, it's a logical discussion, and I don't think it's an irrational point. You know, we are providing what we think gives us the best management and longevity of roof projects over time. And so because it's available for that, we're proposing it. And so it's not illogical that you could think that. I mean, again, we are trying to provide for stability and clear roof management. I mean, when you look at the roofs that are older now, we put a tremendous amount of time and attention and annual repair into those that are part of our overall budget management. But they're somewhat invisible if you want to think about that. But certainly, you know, it's all good until it's not. And
Right.
Whenever you have a roof that starts to demonstrate leaking, it just increases your maintenance and management and roof care, which is, you know, again, budget expenditure and time and energy. So right now, you know, the annual check on that roof has been very good, and it's advantageous to consider it. So, you know, we're doing what we think is smart for the overall fiscal and management of our plants. You know, but that'll be the type of decision that people will have to make. Will the Mill Pond roof be okay if we defer that? Yes. You're wasting your bid document yet again.
Yep.
I mean, this is the problem, and what we really tried to get into was recognizing that the capital committee wanted to take responsibility to create a timeline and a trajectory where we could do design and bid and not be coming to town meeting with dollars that didn't match and couldn't be anticipated. But that means we did go out for bid. We posted that, and, you know, that's a cost that just kind of goes down the drain. Certainly, actually, that's for design, so we would, sorry, let me just, I'm looking at the wrong slide. Let me clarify. Yeah,
No,
that's bid, sorry.
We already spent money on
I'm
that.
tired.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, we lose the bid.
I mean, likewise, I would also probably not support the bid for the C-wing for the same reason.
So this one is all ready to go. We did the
Right.
design.
No, I understand
We
the
did the
difference
design
between the
work,
two.
we did the
Yeah.
laser checks. We're
Right.
ready to go with
And
this.
spent
This
money
is
on
a
it.
cracked
Yeah.
bid to
Yeah.
do the repair. The C-wing is the 192, which I believe is being carried on free cash right now
Yep.
to move forward with that design. And, you know, I think, again, design stands of the two. I mean, those are going to be hard decisions for everyone. It takes time to do design. For example, that rim, we're going to have to act on the high school roof as a package. You know, if people move forward with the replacement design and the rim design, you're going to be patchworking your work again. So we tried to just be more comprehensive as how we thought about the roof to bring it to a place of care. The Mill Pond, you know, I think the money is advantageous to give us a much longer lifetime on this roof and ensure that we aren't getting those smaller leaks that do lead to all sorts of other problematic pieces. But I respect the question and the perspective.
I think Steve would like to.
Yeah, I just want to point out.
You have to
You have
come
to come
up
to the
here
mic.
if you want.
You gotta make the long walk, yeah.
Yeah, just- Westborough TV will charge us extra.
I know, they always, yeah.
Mike.
I just want to point out that the Mill Pond roof repair is a new design, and what it is salvaging the existing roof without having to replace all the stuff that's there. So ultimately, this will save us about 50% of what the cost would be for a strip and replace. And the whole point of what we're doing now is to get that savings with an additional bump of 20 years plus, using the substrate that's already there. The insulation is still dry and it's good, and that's the reason why it's here as you see it, is an opportunity to see if we be, through this process, be able to do the same thing with the new roofs that we're now fixing. So just keep that in mind.
No, I understand that. I guess, really, my question is, is your 20-year bump off of today, so you'll get this to 47 years? Or is it off of?
Well, I think that's the hope. That's the hope of this scheme.
Okay, so to me, though, that means that it lasts it's hard to say.
Well, the warranty.
It's hard to
is what
say
they-
how long these
yeah.
roofs lasted, because we probably should have replaced them 5 years ago, but.
Longer than
But
that.
still longer than 47 years.
Yeah, longer than that ago. But the point is that what we don't want to do is spend an awful lot of annual maintenance on these things and trying to keep water out. But the answer to your question is warranties are what they give you, 20 years. If a roof lasts 40, I guess we smile, but you don't have a warranty on it.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to warranty longer than what they think today that benefits them.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
So, but anyway, and as Amber said, the point here is to try to get ourselves ahead of the curve finally on the roofs that we have in the school system. So, again, if monetary reasons are that, as Finance Committee has to do, make decisions across the board for the benefit of the town, obviously we have to live with that. But I think from the point of view of the school department, we're trying to get ahead of this problem that we've been kicking the can down the road for years and years and years, in order to help other parts of the town and not do the same thing that we're trying to do again. So, thank you.
I'd like to ask a related question, does doing these restorations, one of my concerns is, we seemingly are at a point where we have to do all the roofs kind of in a 5-year period. With the ones we're rebuilding plus restorations, are we setting up a future generation for the same thing? Or by doing restorations, those will come first and these other ones will last longer or something? Because somehow I'd like to get us out of sync with all the schools needing, because we have brand new roof on Fails too,
Right.
so.
Well, you
that-
definitely are getting a longer warranty on roof work than we had in the past. It used to be 20, now it's 40. Like, they're giving you more lifespan on those roofs. I do think, to Steve's point, there's, like, for example, if you use the Hastings as an example, we weren't able to salvage the insulation because it's received so much damage. We put it in the bid as an alternate that if we could, even proportionally, we might be able to save, $400,000. You would automatically be in a much more advantageous place coming in on a roof like this, where you did the seal coat, you kept things dry, you're not losing interior stuff with slow leaks, and you get an overall better quality and management of what the roof material is. And when you come to replace it, your insulation should be good, your infrastructure should be in a good place. And, I think it's a smarter way to do the care. You have to weigh it out against choices, definitely, but it certainly becomes problematic as these roofs wear down, the increase in springing. I mean, this building does leak right now. I mean, you go over after a rainy day and you're gonna find a couple trash cans and a couple wet ceiling tiles. So they're not tight right now, but we're in front of them being problematic enough that by the time you hit 22 years, you start to require a type of maintenance that's different, and we're in the cusp of this to be able to do it now. The same over at the high school. I think if you pass on them, then you're basically accepting an earlier repair on the roof and a full repair. So those are choices we have to make.
Okay, who else?
Thank you.
You're done?
Yep.
Who else has a question? Rob, first. Rob?
So, My biggest concern, and it's based on what I said previously, is that the person who is making the recommendation for what needs to be done is a roof manufacturer who's ultimately supplying the materials for these roofs. And so I question whether their evaluations are being properly vetted, and what we're doing to make sure that we are not using proprietary materials on our roofs that are costing us more money. So in the instance of Mill Pond, Garland, who gave us the advice on what to use, it's their Liquitech coating that's being proposed to be put on the roof. There's not an equal that somebody can bid against it. There are other ways of re-roofing that without using the coating. You can cut and cap for similar, maybe even less money. So I question, and everybody's doing it with the best of intentions, but I really question whether we're getting good advice and whether these decisions are getting properly vetted.
I mean, I understand your perspective, Rod. You've voiced it before. I mean, I feel like we have gotten tremendous support from the Garland company to come in and do annual inspections for us and to help us maintain our roofs. They don't do that work at the time. I mean, there's other people that come in and do it for us, but they've been the boots on the ground walking our roofs across, all 6 of our buildings for many, many years. And I guess there's also quality relationship in what you provide when you're working with people who come when you need them and are really helpful to crisis intervention and support. And so I certainly stand by the quality of work that we have gotten from Garland to come in and help us assess where we are. And I don't believe it's like a nefarious or inappropriate process for them to have the right to bid on the materials for the work. We're bound by the legalities of municipal law and we're within them. So I consider that the answer, which is they watch us so closely on everything. We are so careful in the open bid law process that we're working within it, and the company has stood by us to do good work for us. And I guess personally I'm comfortable with that, and people need to, vote their conscience. I don't believe that we've been sold a bill of goods. I mean, they've been able to show us other roofs that have given us a better quality of repair and a longer lifetime warranty. I think in looking at it, the decision was to move forward. I respect your opinion on it.
I appreciate that. So in the case of Hastings, just as an example, they're recommending a 40-year roof, which sounds great, but most typical roofs have a 30-year warranty that would be much less expensive. So, are we making the right decision? Do we consider what the cost premium would be to go from a 30 to 40-year roof? And ultimately, my concern on Hastings is we have a HVAC project that's going to put a lot of holes in the new roof. And, I question what's being described as a failure really couldn't be dealt with for another year and done in conjunction with the HVAC project when you're going to have all sorts of tradesmen and welding and soldering up on the new roof. And you're going to have to pay the same company who's doing the project now to come back and do that same work over again in a lot of areas. So those are my 2 biggest concerns.
I certainly have spent a long time tracking construction projects in town. I'm not an engineer or an architect, and you know that. I'm not going to argue the point with you. I believe that the cycle of, we didn't choose to do the roof right now, just saying, like, we're here because I don't think we can wait another year, to be honest. I mean, it's a comfortable perspective for you. It's not for me, and it's not for my faculty, and it's not for our students. We lost materials, we lost days, we're losing time and faculty and buildings and grounds care. Every time it rains, I got a guy on the roof and I got 2 guys inside. I'm not willing to wait longer, to be honest, and so I believe it's a project that has to come forward. You can discuss the availability of the others. I think the ADA and I think that roof have got to move forward. We've been here multiple times for multiple years. No one disagrees with you that the order of operations on the repairs of Hastings are out of order. If we were going to argue the point, and I don't mean to be adamant about it, but I've been at it as long as you have on this project, the bottom line is that we would have done the MSBA repair years ago and we wouldn't be here at all. But we didn't, because in partnership with the town and AFC and Town Select Board, we withdrew that project. It would have been a lot cheaper and done a long time ago, but we worked in partnership. I think now in partnership, you need to step up and get these done, because that building is starting to suffer at a level at which we're answerable to, and you've got a big chunk of the town sitting over in the Fales building now. So, you know, as we look at the process of providing fair and equitable education across the town, I believe you need to move forward on these projects. And I'm not usually overly firm. I don't disagree that the Hastings project is hugely convoluted and out of order. I would like to get it done. And it would be good to leave here myself at the close of the year in a place where the things are voted and in order and we're taking steps forward. So that's my opinion. But I'm not an architect and I'm not an engineer.
Yeah, so I guess my concern is, and I agreed, everybody's making the best decision based on the information they have and the knowledge they have. So who's typically on projects of this magnitude will have an owner's project manager? It doesn't seem like we have them on this. So who's providing the guidance to make the decision on whether we do a 30-year roof or a 40-year roof?
I imagine that when we vote these projects, we will need to bring back to school committee the formulation of basically either the continuation of the building committee that's in place that they've used for Fales and the other pre-K3 project. That committee's been together a long time. They probably need a break. A committee to oversee management of that project. And both our buildings and grounds people will probably be doing on-site management. So, you know, it's not built in now because it costs money, so.
But it
Oh,
is.
here he is. Oh, sorry.
But it is.
You
We have-
scared me. Wow, that's you came right on the left.
We have an engineer on this stuff. That's where all the paperwork came from that we bid. It's the same process we always do. And in fact, the supervision of the engineer and whoever consultant we have is by the school committee. That's our job, just as your job is to do what you're doing. And we've managed those kind of jobs very well for the 20 years I've been on the school committee, and we will continue to do so. And the reason why is because we come in at less money than what we ask the town to give us. And we have done that historically. And so we know how to do it, and we've done it well.
Well, I think everybody agrees that Hastings has not been done well, so not through anybody's fault. And I wasn't back here when the original thing was done, but I mean, the fact that we have a school like Hastings and a school like Fales with two disparate.
Well, we have
you
other
can't- you
schools
can't even-
that
you
are
can't even
older,
compare the
and
two.
they're harder to replace because they are older.
Yeah.
The issue here is to let us get ahead of the problems that we have in front of us with leaky roofs, and we'll deal with the quality of the other buildings in passing. You've already said tonight you don't want to give us everything that we need to fix this stuff because of the needs of the town. The issue here is.
I'd just like to correct you, one member.
Well, okay.
You
Well,
can't speak for the
one
committee.
member spoke for himself, and I've heard others have different opinions than the majority as well. But my point is, this is, together we do this stuff. Together, we try to solve all of our problems the best we can. And we offer to you the best solution, in our opinion, given all the things that have happened relative to the roofs and the issues that go with this stuff. I think it was probably almost 10 years ago that Amber mentioned what we were trying to get done then in terms of Hastings and the roof and the windows and everything else. And it didn't happen for the reasons that were discussed.
So is it,
can
just
I-
a clarification, is, for a project that's over $3.5 million, even though we're
There's-
only voting on 1 million of it, you do need an actual owner's project manager outside the,
Correct.
School
And we have one.
and who's that?
That is GGD, the engineer.
Okay.
And that's
So
how it's done.
That's what I wanted to.
And be advised, by the way, of your other concerns, if you will, about Garland. Garland, this process to get the DCAM stuff went through the Inspector General's office. So if you think somebody might have a problem, that might have happened there, but it didn't.
So Steve, my basic question is, do you think we should be specifying proprietary products?
It wouldn't be proprietary.
They are proprietary. There's no, a typical spec will have 3 manufacturers listed. This does not have 3 manufacturers listed. It has a very specific spec that only Garland can meet.
Well, that's
So
the
are we
point.
paying a
I can
premium?
tell you that, about 30 years ago, I had the same thing where we had the or equal bid, okay? And the outfit showed up and they said, yeah, oh yeah, we're gonna meet that bid. Guess what? They didn't, and the town got screwed. And the
That's-
bottom line on quote unquote, the or equal bid was simply that somebody could say it.
Well,
But not deliver it.
Some engineer has to verify it. They can't take somebody's word.
That didn't happen. The court
Well-
said no. But anyway,
But do you think we should be specifying proprietary products to build our roofs?
I don't believe they can specify proprietary products. All it has to be said in there is or equal.
Doesn't say or equal.
Well, that I can't speak to.
I read the.
But on the other hand, I think under the circumstances of an emergency bid with the documents, that it at least saw the scrutiny of the Inspector General.
But he's not reviewing the bid documents. He's just saying.
He's part of the state game plan, and if we don't comply, then things don't happen. You've been there too, I'm sure. So,
Okay.
anyway,
Let's move
that's
on.
my point.
Somebody else have a question? Or do you have a different? You're all set for a moment. Okay. Andrew?
I think this is broken, right?
I guess.
Thank you. I have a quick question before I soliloquy, but, and I apologize if I missed this, but you talked about losing the bid amounts if we chose not to execute on one of these projects and move forward. Could you give a rough estimate of what the bid amount of lost, and obviously not the time, but the cost?
Between $40,000 and $80,000
That's the cost to stand up a bid.
to do it again.
Okay.
Not rewrite the documents, but to just do it again in terms of going through the state bid process.
Okay, well, it's a lot more than I thought it was gonna be. My soliloquy has 2 parts. One, I've had the pleasure of working with the school committee in a number of different ways, or the schools and the building in a number of different ways. And if I had any doubts about their sincerity, and I'm not an architect either, but if I had any doubts about their sincerity and their willingness to work the most out of every project they've ever worked on, and I've been with a bunch, and I haven't agreed with everything that's been said, and we've talked, and we've moved our way forward, but they are unfailingly conscientious of doing right by what the town is giving them. And at least in the spheres that I've worked in, I'm incredibly impressed, and that's why I know that they've gotten folks involved. Somebody like Steve Durrett, though he may not be with us forever, has been an unbelievable resource, pushing back in ways with a breadth of experience on projects that I think has done good and done well by what we've been able to execute. So I have a level of confidence that I might not otherwise if I had not been so close. And this is not faint praise. It's given over years of working with folks who've worked hard at this. And again, not with whom I've always agreed with, but with whom we've found our way forward. And I think the building committees have been helpful as a place to make sure we had those creative friction. So it's my hope that something like that persists going forward. The second half of my soliloquy was a reminder that what brings us to these conversations is something I've said before, is this year with a $1,000 price tag potentially for every person in town for the average house for taxes, this is a time to step back and say, are we doing something? And it's absolutely right that these are borrows for the larger ones. So would we be saving money this year? No, but as a group, there is an unrivaled pressure to say we are doing the best we can in trying times, as are you. I take nothing away from your efforts, but this isn't like the other years. And in every year that I've supported the school, it hasn't felt like this sort of a pressure. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to vote yet. I'm trying to keep an open mind, but it's different this year. To say nothing of the fact that Hastings was clawed forward because of what happened. And so it just seems in the places that the town may be able to look at something, the school seems to have potentially some flexibility because you have been such good stewards of these projects. And some of the projects are in better places starting than other places in this town. So there was no question in there intentionally. It's a perspective I wanted to share, but obviously would not stifle your thoughts if you had any.
No, I thank you, Andrew. We have certainly had a lot of good building committee meetings together. I think that, as we said, I respect the fact that FinCom is a place where you guys ask hard questions. I don't mind them, and I hope you don't feel that I'm being too forceful in my perspective as well. I think that we've tried to demonstrate the same capacity to juggle and move around different financial parts, to look for less expensive ways that give us some longevity and spread these issues out. We've worked in collaboration with the Capital Committee to make those decisions, and our responsibility is to bring them forward to you. Certainly, the good news is when we opened these bids, they weren't worse, they were better. We carried the right order of money. I think doing the design work and coming in with hard bids is all smart decision-making on the part of this town. It's an incredibly well-run town, and certainly I've done 10 years of these, and this is a complex year. We all understand that. I think that the ADA bid is looking better than we could hope to have seen it, and repairing the roof is necessary. And we would be poised then to move forward on the HVAC, bringing Hastings forward. I just want to acknowledge, Rod, that I'm immensely proud of all of our schools, and I think that while each of the elementary schools is different, they are attractive, well-run, and full of talented staff across all of those schools, and that anybody who's at the school thinks it's the best one they have. And that is the demonstration of a high-quality district. We've continued to provide good upgrades in each of those buildings and taken responsibility for them. There is no way we could have knocked down 3 buildings and built 3 new ones. That would have been hugely, irresponsible and fiscally unattainable. And so we had to make choices. And when we looked at expanding the footprint at Hastings, getting the new wing over at Armstrong, and building Fales, it was a good intervention to absorb our enrollment issues and hit each building with improvements. I stand by that decision. It was thoughtful, and it was grounded in really good consultation with lots of good architects and design people, and I think it's served the town well. Now we're at the place of maintenance on these other 2 buildings, and I think Armstrong is in good shape. We replaced that roof. You've still got the barrel roof of the gym that needs care, but right now you have Hastings, would be done. Gibbons is done. The high school's in trajectory. It's the one that would have to be handled. We've broken it apart. Fales is good and Gibbons is good. They've all been done. Mill Pond, it's on the docket. Can you kick the can down the road? Vote your will. I think that, we didn't anticipate the Hastings roof, so we have to put it forward, and the plans for these other ones were already in trajectory. I can't answer for you if the Capital Committee would have made a different decision if they had had all of those, and they haven't come back to us and asked us to do anything differently, so we're bringing them all forward. But I respect all aspects of the conversation. I think let's just keep answering questions to help you decide how you want to vote.
Two clarifying things, perhaps on Hastings. Is the roof we're proposing on Hastings the same one we did at Armstrong? Do you know? In other words, the type of roof that's being proposed at Hastings, is that the same kind that was installed? I don't know the answer to this.
It's a full strip down to the steel and repair the whole thing. I think it's the same. I think it's the same roof framework. It was the same design. Was it the same design company? I think it did. So I'm going to say, I'm guessing yes.
Here's my question. So, most, as I mentioned, most typical roof replacements are single-ply 30-year roofs. We're now proposing a 40-year roof at Hastings, and I didn't know if we've gone up a level for Hastings than we did at Armstrong. And then the second one is, and I realized you had an alternate in your bids not to replace the insulation, and obviously understand that if it's wet, you need to. But has anybody figured out how much of it is wet?
They had to do samples of sections to ascertain that. And their decision was that they are figuring they need to carry the cost, so they are gonna have to replace the insulation. So when we looked at it before, when they developed the alternate, they were gonna go in and basically take samples across the range and try to see if they thought it was, able to be maintained, is my understanding. And when they looked at it, it wasn't, the companies didn't bid the alternate because they think that the insulation has to be changed, is how I understood it.
Well, the companies bid the alternate, so that typically what's done is you can scan the roof to find out which areas have wet. And so
Yeah.
I guess my question is, was the scan done to determine how much is wet? And I mean, it's not only a cost, it's, you're putting a lot of insulation into the landfills if you don't have to, and typically.
Well, we're certainly cognizant of that as well, and would have liked to avoid it. And I'm not sure, Rod, I would say I'd rather than getting into being out of my depth.
Yeah, no.
I would rather email you back, and I'd be
Sure.
happy to afterwards to
Yeah.
answer the question for whether or not they're ascertaining if they can do that as they go, or whether or not they're fully sure they have to replace all the insulation. I'd rather email you back.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just so the board knows, there was an alternate within the bid to keep the existing insulation and go over with new insulation to get the proper R value. So the savings was in the magnitude of $400,000 or $500,000.
475
Yeah,
average.
so it's not an insignificant
Right.
number.
You
So-
can only do that if it's dry.
Right.
Right.
But you can scan.
But I don't know if they're trying to figure it out as they go or if they've already figured it out, but I'm gonna defer to the earlier conversation that if there's a way to save money and a way to do that and to be both fiscally and environmentally responsible, then we're gonna do that. And I think to Andrew's point, we watch these projects closely. We don't just turn them over and walk away. And if we can use that insulation, we will.
Okay.
Promised.
We gotta keep moving on these. Beth, do you have any questions? She's remote.
No, I was just going to say that I'm not sure from a consumer perspective that Rod's statement about 30-year roofs are the baseline. I'm not sure I buy into that. I like the idea of the better quality roof having a better chance of lasting longer. Because everything I've read about roofing, which I was doing after Rod's statement, seemed to imply that, it's a quality issue and a hit or miss number, that roofs don't necessarily last the full warranty, but that the better materials give you a better chance of getting there.
Okay. So that
We-
wasn't a
Just
question.
my
that
opinion.
was a statement,
Yeah.
I guess.
I just have one borrowing question, if you don't mind. Yes.
Let me see if other people who haven't had a chance to talk have questions. You all set? I'm good. You're all set? Okay, you can ask them.
On your last slide where you show the values,
That one?
yeah, so the money available to borrow, so what are we asking the town to, what are we asking for the town for now? And do we still have money left from other articles that could be applied to what we're asking for? I don't know if I fully understand what these numbers mean.
So right now, we're just going to be asking the town to vote on the 1,074,000. That's for,
No, go ahead. Yeah. I think he's trying to understand, if you look at the table,
Yeah.
the available already borrowed funds, that 1,375,000 is already borrowed and available to expend. It's sitting there.
Okay.
So it's already in the financial spreadsheet, and we got that money to spend. So,
Okay. Okay.
and of that, when you look back, this original article was for the 2,444,000, and there's another 967 available to borrow at a future date, should we call for it. So authorized, yeah. It's authorized, is that the language? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we-
authorized to be borrowed. So we haven't borrowed it yet. So that's the difference between those two columns.
So could we use what's already been asked for now as opposed to asking for another article to borrow more money?
It comes out the same way.
Okay.
No, there is a difference.
Yeah.
And the difference is we cannot award a contract unless in fact the money is in hand. That is authorized to borrow, and authorized by the town meeting. So we can't say, okay, we're just gonna use what we have now and then later on go out to borrow. The town has to acknowledge that it has raised the money in one of those processes in order to pay the whole bill. Because that's how we fell on our knees last time, is we had a rough order of magnitude, but not enough money to award. And so that is what has to happen. But the bottom line for the impact on the town is that if the money is already authorized or already authorized and borrowed, the impact on the town's finances already has occurred. And the difference is the new piece. Does that help?
No.
Well, can
So-
I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, now we're
There's-
talking, I'm
there's not
actually
enough
asking him.
authorized to
Actually, you
pay
need Christie here to
for it.
answer
We
that.
need,
but
we
that's
need
my
more money
understanding.
authorized than we
Yeah.
have
But
for
isn't-
this project.
But isn't the 967 and the 1,329,000 already authorized?
Authorized to borrow and do the project.
Well, it's true, but they
So the
have to be aimed
1.3
at this
million,
project.
we already have that in hand in our bank account right
Right,
now, so it's
right.
already available.
Right.
The 967, that was authorized to be borrowed, but has not been borrowed yet.
So why do we need a town article to borrow more money if
We
we
don't need
already
it for
have
roof,
money
this
there?
is for the ADA repair.
Yeah, so I
because you're
think
saying
Jean
this
caught,
is
the
not-
question is, could we use this money that we've
Right.
borrowed for ADA for the roof instead?
No, this is for the ADA.
Right.
Oh, so
Okay.
you're thinking this,
The ADA is the
work
different
already.
story.
Right, right.
Yeah, no,
She's got the
okay,
ADA.
I'm like
ADA.
whispering in his ear.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
no, I
I'm
wasn't
like-
talking about the roof,
right,
this
right.
is for,
We can-
I think.
Yeah,
we
there's
have too
a-
many projects,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, well, that's
So
something
the
you should talk to Christie about,
967,000,
which
that
if
is
it's
for
there, then
ADA
why
as well.
ask
It's for
more?
HVAC and ADA usage.
So why can't we use that instead of having?
Right,
can
we're
if we
having
wanted
that
to.
conversation
Okay,
right
all
now.
right,
So,
okay.
Rod, well, we love the sparring around the engineering. Once we start talking money, I'm on equal footing with you. You know, we.
You're more than equal footing.
The proposal as we laid this out, all right, anticipated it was gonna be closer to 5 million and we were gonna need money. If you look at this number now, where am I? There I am. So the fact, we need a gap of that 1,074,000 and we already have authorization to borrow 1,003,000. We could pass over the article altogether and just call in the borrow on that money.
Yep.
And then we eliminate it altogether and make everyone happy. It still costs money when it
No,
comes
I know,
in, but
but
it takes,
So
it
it's
takes.
not in addition to this, we could act, oh.
Right, because the bid came in so advantageously, we can work within already prior, because you amended, this is the only reason we can do it, and I want to go back and read the language, okay?
Yeah.
We amended Article 20, this one here, and Article 23 to package that money available for the ADA work and HVAC and design. We kind of put it all together. So arguably, as long as we confirm all of that, what do you think?
So in town meeting during October 2022 was Article 30. They added a clause to it saying that for the final article on there, that we could use it for both HVAC and ADA compliance improvements.
So we could, I want to confirm this, just like, you know, we literally cracked the bid today. And we could do that and pull the article and we pass it over. We would pass over it and basically use the already voted available authorization to go ahead and do the ADA work. And then we would vote hopefully to attain the roof, get both of those complete. You would have a small remaining amount of money it wouldn't be enough to do the HVAC. You would come back at some later date
So
for
you
the
would need
HVAC.
money to even design the HVAC?
No, the
if you
design
did
for
that?
the HVAC is pretty much
It's pretty much
complete.
done.
Yeah, it's
So the
complete. The
difference
design is complete.
If you left this here, some of the HVAC money would be paid in the future, but it doesn't really matter
I mean,
A or B.
but to Andrew's discussion point and all of our feelings, it's a very complex town meeting and a complex time.
Yeah.
And if we could, in the goodwill of the feel of town meeting, pass over that article and utilize already available to borrow funds, we'd complete the project without needing to have a town meeting discussion for the ADA, which would feel good to everybody and eliminate one discussion, if not even one funding. We're saving the time on the discussion alone is advantageous to all of us. And I would need to just go back. I would need to go back and just get the approval of school committee, check with Chris, like there's some mechanics to do. But I'm not opposed to that, clearly. You can hear that we are always, working on all of it. And we could figure out then what would be the remaining left. Go back and look at the people will ask us, well, then what are we gonna do about the HVAC? We'd have to come eventually for
Have to come
another
back.
funding, but
Right.
I would imagine that's gonna be 2 years out. By the time you do the roof in the summer and do the ADA over this summer, nights, vacations, and next summer, you probably wouldn't be ready to come back for the HVAC for at least
Couple years.
2 more town meetings potentially.
That makes
Okay,
sense.
so look at us, problem solving
Yeah, so
together.
What I'm going to recommend is we will hold off voting tonight
And
on
we'll
the
follow up,
ADA.
yeah.
We have Christie coming back Monday, and we
Okay.
can still vote Monday and next Thursday and get it in the book. Otherwise, we can wait till and announce it, but
I'd rather have it in the book and
Yeah,
clean
so
it
would
up.
we.
We all would, yeah.
So, but if it can, if we have a better theory Monday and we can vote it Monday, we vote it, and if not,
I can
if we
come
have
back.
a better theory by the following Thursday, then by
I can
a
probably-
week from today, then we can vote it then, and that's our last night to get anything in the book.
Yeah, no, I can come back Monday. Tomorrow, I can come back and answer that question or send her with the answer.
Right. I'm sure you'll talk to Christie about it.
We'll
Okay.
move quickly on it. I mean, that's why it's good that Steve is here as the chair and we can act on clarifying tomorrow.
Okay, so are there any more capital questions? And if not, when we go to vote on budgets, probably Monday, are there any questions that is holding up anybody from voting on the specifically school budget? Because I don't want to ask Amber about everybody else's budgets, but she has enough to do.
While you're here, let's review all
Yeah.
of the budgets.
Yeah, I guess, I've voiced my concerns about the roofs. I would be inclined to put more money in your budgets for roof maintenance and not go ahead with some of
Sorry, I
these
didn't mean
projects. I mean, I guess how much, I'd be curious to understand how we do our roof maintenance and how much money we're spending on roof maintenance.
Sure, my forensic accountant here.
Yeah, okay.
Who will bring to you, I just want to say, like, Anita going back and looking at every voted article since 10 years ago, to look at every voted article for the schools in order to understand all of the things we've done, has been tremendously productive to both of us and to her to kind of own the history of it before I'm not here, but really productive and gigantic amount of time. So she's up to speed already, an expert on answering all of the questions around, what we have going on financially. We gave a very succinct budget presentation, and the highlight is all of our budget is pretty much salary. We pushed a lot of money from any additional savings we had with the additional funds we got for circuit breaker and special education, about $400,000. We pushed against salary and other expenditures. We were able to reallocate and rebudget with about $200,000. It was $188,000, like short of all of the operational budget expenditures, and move those around so that we used a reallocation against the salaries. So you can see here as a recap for you, I just did this, we just did our presentation today, so I'm giving you like the very quick summary. level funded all the buildings, moved 400,000 from student services while maintaining services there. I want to be clear, we got additional funding, we had some advantageous savings, reallocated that against other budget expenditures such as technologies and salary and other uses. You can see that facilities, we reduced it against its total increases, saving that about roughly 99,000 against the fails. Typical facilities costs for electricity and gas and oil, saving us a reallocation for total operations around 200,000, which we then basically pushed against salaries. You can see that level funding here, and of the total expenditure increase, about 12,000 of it that's really beyond that total number. The rest is salaries. I don't think that's typical. If those of you who've been along for multiple budgets, typically we have other project things in and a lower percentage, but you're picking up about an $800,000 gap in '24 that we absorbed this year through a lot of deferments and some cutting and pulling back funding from the schools. And waited as opposed to going back to fall town meeting. I think that we stood by the fact that we had been clear that we had what we needed in our budget, and we weren't going to come back and change that discussion. We had stood on town meeting floor and said we had incorporated in what we felt we needed for our contracts, and we were committed to standing by that, and so we did the cuts internally. It's definitely slowed some of our technology purchasing and some of our buildings and grounds repairs, but we felt good about that decision. But that means in salaries, you're picking up that gap plus then the 25 and the steps and lanes and the COLA. I don't anticipate that the next year rollover will be that big. It should come back down to steps and lanes. I think this is where we say we're still really good. You've heard that before.
Yeah. I mean,
our-
we had a whole day or half a
Yeah,
day of
you're in
budget
good shape.
presentation.
Do you have any
So I just wondered
questions?
if there are any specific questions, because I got to keep things moving. too.
Yep.
And so you had a question on roof repair or something, or?
Yeah,
I don't quite understand that kind of detail. but-
Well, I guess my question is, if we're not going to do some of these things, like the sealing of the roof, what can we do from a maintenance standpoint? To Amber's point, the report does say, there are areas of wet insulation at Mill Pond. We should be prepared. If we're not going to do that, we should be prepared to take the steps necessary. And
Yeah, but
I'd
but
rather.
Rob,
I'd rather
the school committee and school department have come with their recommendation of what to do. It's not also up for them to put in things into their budget in case you don't like what they want to do until after the town decides not to do what they're recommending. So it wouldn't make sense now to add money to roof repair if their plan A is to do the replacement. Because then why would you have
I'm
it
just
in
telling
both
you how
places?
I am voting. What everybody else decides to do is up to them.
We are continually, as fiscally responsible, weekly, if not daily, always adjusting the allocations as needed, moving from funds from one school to another if we face a cost. It's part of budget maintenance. It's part of decision making. We just got an estimate on the swale over, that big culvert over at the high school. Those are other things can't wait. We're gonna have to make some funding allocations. It's close to 17,000. It's regular maintenance, just comes through the docket, and sometimes you can plan for them and sometimes you can't. We can turn that down, we can wait another year, we can do it now. That's just part of the fiscal management of the annual grounds care, buildings care, roof care. That's work we know how to do, and we will do so. We will take the will of the town and then adjust accordingly. We, defer on furniture and you move, we just have to make those decisions, and that's
Right.
what budget management looks
I
like.
think you have an advantage that the town side doesn't have, that you can move things
We have line
around.
item transfer, exactly.
You have line item transfer during the year if
Right,
you
you
find-
have to. I mean, you vote a
Yeah.
budget before you even know how many kids and faculty are gonna be walking through the door.
Unfortunately, I think in our town side, we're therefore, because we have to make all these little buckets, we
Right.
end up sort of with contingencies in all the buckets.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's advantageous for people to be able to vote maybe at that level, but it's disadvantageous because you then split
It's-
things up
yeah.
into that level, and there is some real
You
advantage.
can't be nimble,
Yeah.
and to run a large community that way is pretty crazy,
Yeah.
but that's the municipal financing.
Yes.
Do you have the ability to have capital reserves for projects?
No,
We have to balance the budget.
right.
period. That's the reason why the town can vote up or down the bottom line, but you can't allocate specific stuff to our line item budget.
So, for
Were you
example,
saying, do they have a
Like a reserve?
capital fund?
Yeah, right.
no,
Is
That's why we're here.
right, no, we
No.
don't. We don't have a capital. So we have in different years, you have options, you know, if you came across something that was substantial, you come back here, and we have
Yep.
asked for
Yep.
fund support before. We use, again, the reallocation and line item management internally.
Yep.
Or in some catastrophic event, you come back and have a special town meeting, you
Sure.
know. But I think typically we manage the budget annually without coming back and asking for more funding and do the work of the district.
Okay, very good. If you'll bear with us, we could vote some of these, and if we have
Whatever
more.
you need, you know how we're here to support you. We will sit down and listen, and if you need
Okay.
us, what do you need? We'll get out of your way.
Okay, let
and
me
just
just
listen.
ask, Fred, are you doing public comment tonight?
Yeah,
Is it related to schools?
I had a couple of questions, specific on the budget.
For-
One was the,
Well, why don't you come
Come up
up?
on mic.
We'll do that, then we'll do vote, just in case we could hear what you had to say before we vote and stuff. And just name and address for the record.
Wilfred Savoy, 41 Chestnut Street. On the school budget, the zero funding for the fail school for energy and fuel. I know it was spoken about at one of the meetings, and I missed it, but why would those accounts be zeroed out in the budget? That's my question.
Okay. If you're willing to answer, you can. I'm sure that's a kind of.
hand first.
I was gonna
You're
say,
the
Steve,
first guy that wanted to know that.
Steve was waiting for that question.
I was.
Teed it up for it.
And the reason is because it doesn't cost us anything to heat or cool the building. And we get, in effect, we're getting paid for the electricity that we generate. So it's a net zero plus building by design. And in fact, the net present worth of the installed capacity, and it's specifically for geothermal and solar, net present worth $2023 for the 50-year life, including all the replacement panels, all the replacement parts, et cetera, is over $8 million. And that, in fact, is the reason why those accounts are zero, because for fails, we're getting paid for the excess generation that we have. And in fact, the only thing that we need is electricity to run the pumps for the geothermal. And that's why they're zero.
So Steve, is the savings that we're getting, is that meeting the projections that were set when the design was done? Sounds like it based on what you're saying.
Yes and no. Okay, and the reason why it's yes and no is that we had a totally different concept of the way National Grid was gonna pay us. In effect, what we had as the model was the fact what was going on with net metering relative to residential. And the impact that we have as a commercial entity is that we have to pay a demand charge. As you might guess, the sun is not out all night, and so the first hours of the day, the first two, usually 6 to 7 when we crank things up, we're taking off the grid. And even though the net metering side says we have put into the bank enough kilowatt hours to cover that, We still get whacked for the demand charge of using their wires to move that energy. One of the things that at least is on the table is we're looking to figure out how we can get rid of that by virtue of either battery storage or a fuel cell. We have all the hardware there already for, to supply a fuel cell. And so if the price comes down on those, that would
I
be
don't
the
want to get
option.
into, it's a quick, because I don't want to go
Very
too
quick.
into the mud on,
No, I think there's one other thing that threw off the planning versus what we're getting right now is that, if I'm remembering, the efficiency of solar panels changed twice during the estimates. So it got better and better as we went. So it depends really on where you looked at it. And by the time we got what we installed, it was not what was on any of the final estimates. So it was even better, I think.
Yeah, one of the things that happened in 2023 when the system was fully online was that National Grid changed the billing 3 times. Took us a long time to figure out what it was they were doing to us. But we're doing okay now.
okay. Anything else on school? Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question.
All right, thank you. Yes, that's good. Thank you. In the athletic budget, there's quite a shift from coaches' stipends, minus 107,000, and an increase in assistant coaches, 47,000. What was happening there? That seems to be quite a radical change there.
We actually just reallocated the line items, so, yeah.
So there was a reduction in assistant coaches and an increase, a slight increase in, a reduction in,
Yep, so if you look
I
here.
gotta get this lined up here. Wait a minute. There was a reduction in coaches' stipends of $107,000 and an increase of $47,000 for assistant coaches. Are we having less coaches and more assistants, or?
No, it's only because so if you look over here, the way that it was done last year,
Yeah.
it actually should have come out of
Okay,
here,
so it's a
that's why.
correction
Yeah,
rather than an actual?
It was,
Okay,
yeah, it was just a correction.
Okay.
okay, thank you. Those were my questions as far as the
Okay.
school department. Can I
Okay.
make my other comments now, or you want to wait?
Why don't you wait, we'll finish
Okay.
with the school stuff, and then we'll dig into your other stuff. Thank you. Okay, so I am looking for a motion on
Is it
Article
11N?
11N.
That's where you want to start?
That's where I want to start.
All right. And McMahon, I make a motion to recommend the town transfer $60,000 from free cash for the high school exterior rim designs, repair design.
Is there a
Bradley,
second?
second?
Bradley, second. Okay, any further discussion? At this point, roll call vote, 'cause we're hybrid.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
So we are 7-1. Oh, with one missing person. Okay.
Gonna go in order.
Anything particular you want to comment on?
No,
No or yes for anybody?
I,
For your no first.
oh,
Sure.
no, I would like to see an independent person evaluate what we need to do for the roofs at the high school,
On the rim?
including the rim.
Okay. Okay, anybody have anything? Okay. Let's go to 11O, WHSC wing roof restore.
McMahon, I make a motion to recommend the town vote to transfer $192,000 from free cash for the high school C-wing roof restoration design.
Bradley, second?
Any further discussion? Hear any? Okay, Prashant?
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, no.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, no.
Shafford, no.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 3 noes. 530, motion carries. Okay, next up, 11P.
Should you get a minority statement at this point?
I think it'd be more efficient to just do it at the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think there's some similar reasons for that people
Yeah.
are voting no on multiple, so.
I'm sorry, you ready for the next?
Yes, I am. 11P.
11P, McMahon, I move to recommend the town vote to transfer $504,000 from free cash for the high school A and B wing roof replacement design.
Bradley, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, Prashant, lead us on.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, no.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
Okay, so
6-2.
you are a yes this time. Okay. 6-2-0. Okay. Let's see, next we're
12A.
up to 12A, Mill Pond Roof Restore.
And is
I-
this
Would
going
it
to
be
be
really
for,
obnoxious if I told you I voted the wrong one? So this one I actually would have voted yes.
Hold on.
you mean the previous one
On
you meant to
11.
vote?
No,
Okay.
this, so 11P, I said no, and I meant to say yes.
Would
So
you like to
wanna-
change your vote?
I would like to change my vote on this one, I'm sorry.
Does anybody object to her changing her vote?
No.
Okay,
So
so
that's
Clap was a
7-1.
yes.
Yeah.
So
That's
just
seven.
to
It'll be
clarify,
7-1.
we are 7-1-0, the one being Rod,
Oh, okay. You're
and,
just against the seal coat vote.
right.
And before I make the motion, can I get clarification? It's going to be a million one, right? Not 1,070,000?
The new number is,
It is going to be 1,070,000.
that's, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, the new number should be 1,070,000.
okay. All right, McMahon, I move to recommend the town, and is it,
It's
This one's a borrow.
Yeah, it's a borrow.
borrow $1,070,000 for the Mill Pond School roof restoration.
Bradley, second.
Any discussion? Okay, if not, Prashant.
Ahuja, no.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, no.
Clap, no.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, no?
Shafford, no.
Okay, so this one fails to pass, so we have to vote again.
All right.
Somebody wants to make a motion to
McMahon,
recommend that we don't. Let me just get the number first. It's 2-6, right?
no,
2 yeses.
Three-
3
3-5.
yeses. 3-5, okay.
350.
3-5, okay. Now we can do it again. So this motion is recommend the town defeat. I
Yep.
guess.
McMahon, I move to recommend the town defeat the Article 12A as listed in the warrant.
Bradley, second.
Okay, so this is McMahon, Bradley. Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, no.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Dolan, no.
Leslie, no.
McMahon, yes?
Shafford, yes.
Okay, so that one passes 5-3.
5-3.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Article 12B, we're going to wait and see and vote that another night when we have more information on the motion or whether that can be retracted or whatever, as we discussed earlier. Next up would be Article 19.
And I'm assuming this one's a borrow as well?
19.
Yes.
19 is a
Yeah.
borrow.
Borrow, thank you.
And it's for.
McMahon, I move to recommend the town borrow $4,142,800 for the Hastings Elementary School roof replacement.
We have a second?
Bradley second. But I want to point out, when I made some mistake last time, when you looked over at me and I was motioning, you're like, oh no, we have to vote to recommend that the town vote. Just some memories last a little while here.
I wasn't listening to what he said.
We're
was
voting
doing
to
something
recommend the town vote to approve.
Oh,
yeah.
We're not
Yes.
vote- Oh,
He
I
tried
was
to fill your
called
shoes.
out.
He couldn't
He
do
was
it
called
well.
out, so I have to call you out.
Burned as I was.
We don't
You've got it figured out
vote
by
in
now.
favor or against, we vote to recommend. Okay,
I thought I had said that, but
that's okay.
We don't listen anymore.
We
We're
have
just-
it on
We assume
tape.
you have it figured
I
out.
don't know how we're voting.
Let's keep going. Any discussion?
So, this is a hard one, because I think, the town wants to do in its best interest, and I think nobody wants to put our faculty and student in harm's way. That being said, I think the roof as presently bid is over-designed, and I'm still not convinced that there isn't a solution to maintain it over the next year or two and do it in conjunction with the HVAC project.
Okay, any other comments?
Just that I think that the committee's in a very rare position to have somebody who knows enough about architecture to have an informed opinion about this. So that makes us a better, more informed group, and we can ask questions in a better way. But the school has also got architects and folks who know what they're doing, and it's not wrong or unusual to have a difference of opinions. And much as I'd respect Rod's opinion, I also weigh the input from the school on this as well, so.
Okay, anybody else? Good to go.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
So that would be a 7-1-0 in favor of recommending the town vote. So. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the school stuff, but not the end of our meeting. But so at this point, well, thank you very much for coming, and you're welcome to stay, but I don't recommend it.
Gee, thanks, Walter.
Yeah, you guys have your own meeting.
When will you vote on the budget?
Monday,
Okay, perfect.
hopefully. I say that as a hopeful because many of my plans to vote things are often slightly, we will start on Monday and hopefully not have to carry much of it to Thursday.
As always, enjoyable to join you,
Thanks.
my last official.
And thank you for your 10 years.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anita, we look forward to seeing you many more times.
Yeah, you can't
With
leave.
healthier hooves.
Okay, so next I would invite Wilfred to come up and finish his other questions for the public comment part. And then we have a bunch of other stuff to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wilfred Savoy, 41 Chestnut Street. Just a brief comments about as we see the budget come together, we sort of had, I had a sticker shock in looking at an estimated $957 possible increase in the average tax bill. So that was certainly a sticker shock for me. And during this time of high inflation, it would be, I think, irresponsible for the town to really implement something like this with this type of increase. And I think, as Mr. Bradley said earlier, this is a different time. And I think part of that is the fact that we're in an inflationary period where over the last 3 years, we've experienced something in the order of 17% inflation, food costs, and I do the food shopping in my household. It's up 25 to 30% over the last 3 years. And of course, gas being somewhere in the vicinity of about 35 to 40% increase. So we are in a very different time. And so when we look at the town's expenditures, we should give it some consideration to try to drive that number down. In addition, in addition to property tax increases, of course, we're faced with our stormwater costs that is borne by the taxpayer as well. And also, we're looking at the transfer station's possible increases to the average taxpayer. So we're really getting, I think, hammered. This particular year seems to be a really difficult time. Looking at the budget document as it's being put together, it says that our tax bill, the tax bill for Westborough, is ninth out of the 15 communities that we compare ourselves to. We rank ninth, which is slightly below the middle, which I guess should give us some consolation. But in fact, when you look at our ability to pay the bill, that is looking at Westborough's median household income, that's 13th out of 15, and that's found on page 75 in the budget. So we have a tax bill that's roughly in the middle of these 15 towns, yet basically our ability to raise those funds are in the fall 13th out of the 15. So we really have an issue there in terms of ability to generate that money in the town. I think you've already dealt with the issues of the school department, but it does call for some cautionary reaction, some caution reaction in terms of expenditures. My suggestion that we should look at, and you've already begun to look at that in terms of what you're expending as far as the school committee, in terms of using free cash. Free cash, you're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of $3 million in this particular budget. School department, all of the capital expenditures plus other transfers, about $3 million.
It's
I think-
actually closer to 4, but.
Well, okay, maybe,
Yeah.
well, I got
That's okay.
2.9, but whatever. It's a lot of money that's being taken out of that free cash.
Yeah.
I think I think it's time this year to look at not so much the value of the projects or the items that people are asking for, but can we afford them? So there's a difference there. You've talked about some of the projects in school department tonight, what the value of them, and going forward, will it cost us more next year if we postpone it, and so forth and so on. I think we've got to look at this from the standpoint, can we use some of this free cash, which after all, it is taxpayer money, to reduce that $937 increase. I think there's plenty of wiggle room there where we could hold off on some of these transfers coming from free cash and use it to reduce that. Now, people will say it's a dangerous thing to do, to use free cash. Well, first of all, as I said, it belongs to the taxpayer. It's taxpayers' money. It's money that's not used and put into this reserve account. But, most of the items that are taken out of free cash are not items as a regular part of the budget. So if you don't use it this year, those projects or those items will still be needed next year. And the difference is not that appreciable. So I'm putting on the table that free cash should be considered by this body to be used to reduce that potential $937. Don't get carried away here. Now, that's my point.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will say that we are carrying in this projected budget right now, $450,000 of free cash specifically
Yes,
to
yeah.
reduce the tax bill.
I think it should be a lot more, but
How much do you think it should be?
Okay. Okay, so now there are plenty more stuff I need to get done. Thank you very much. All right. So we have articles to vote. The next up article I would like to vote, unless there's objection, is Article 13, the Fire Department core switches. Mr. Bradley did his homework. I brought the information in case you don't have it, but he talked to Mark Stockman, the IT director. And can you give us? if you
Sure, I'm
have
sorry, I
that?
didn't realize this was coming up, or else.
Okay,
I would've
do you want me
queued
to do
it.
something else
Do you
while
have the
you?
email in front of you?
I have, yeah, I have a
Oh,
printout
but
of
you,
your thing.
feel free to represent, I mean,
Do you want me to put the motion on the table while you're
Yeah.
doing it? Okay. McMahon, I move to recommend the town vote to transfer from free cash $19,500 for fire department core switches.
Is there a second?
Clap second.
And clap. 3, 7. Okay, very good. All right, Andrew.
Sure, so I approached Mr. Stockman with a couple of questions in particular, wondering why how this fits into our plan to move more things online, because getting metal in buildings is something we're hopefully moving away from. I asked for some clarification about why this didn't appear on the capital plan earlier, because this sort of came out of nowhere. And a question as to how urgent this was, because he talked about them not being supported, and what does that really amount to? And finally, oh yeah, there's some details about the software that he's forwarded on, some technical, if anybody has questions. On the question of the cloud, there's still things that are going to be moving to the cloud, and they're still doing that. But when this is in property building, and when there's certain things that have to happen, like literally to support the physical infrastructure, that's what a lot of these are going to. And this doesn't have a digital alternative analog, or excuse me, a digital alternative at the moment. So where they're trying to move to the cloud, they're saying they're still doing so, but this hardware stuff is a lot of stuff they need that's actual physical in, metal in the buildings. With regards to the capital,
Just to clarify, wouldn't you need these switches to reach the cloud?
well, yes. So a lot of this
So-
stuff, so he talked about, there's a number of different elements to this. It's not all metal, but there's a number of different pieces, not just switches. It's other things that are supporting cameras on site, other pieces. So I've been pushing him long enough to know that he should be answering the cloud question. And I think in other conversations I've had with him, he'll try and get ahead of that.
Okay.
But this is really hardware needed in the ground, or on the ground. With regards to the capital improvement plan, it's because the threshold was changed for the dollar amount, and this is something that's been part of the plan, but they're now allowing smaller capital requests to come through, and that was a change since the capital plan met. So going forward, this would have been on the plan as for these amounts, so that's why it didn't appear. And with regards to the service and the stuff that's out of service, the service life of this software is past due, and I think he said it's around 10 years old in 2025, and they are no longer supported. So especially where it's supporting our health infrastructure, police, the response units and stuff like that. Fire and the response. That this is not the kind of thing where you want to allow things to go too far out of date for support. So if I missed any questions, I can certainly follow up with John. He's been on notice that I may follow up again.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this? I don't have any. Anybody else? Thank you, and thanks for doing that investigation. And I would suggest, Prashant, you tell us your opinion.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap yes.
Dolan, yes?
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
Okay, so we are at 710 in favor. All right, the next one I would like to vote is the very next article, Article 14, bringing it back to your attention. The Historical Commission has think, listened to us and changed their original request, and what we voted on was at $24,300. Their request at town meeting will now be $5,000, and I felt it was worth give them another vote. My personal opinion is, I'm a little torn on this. I think it's a committee that's trying to do some new stuff and has new invigoration to it. And I think the fact they listened to us and dropped the request by almost a factor of 5 to a much smaller amount, but still allows them to do some work in this area and expand their work in this area is a fair thing. So I am willing to support it at this particular level, but we'll see how others feel. But I think that they heard the message in this particular year of, why do we have to why can't we spread these over 5 years or something? And they did a fair job of coming down to about a fifth. So that's my opinion.
So, sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I just had a question, like, while we ask them to bring down the money, do they also understand why exactly we ask them to bring down the money, as well as what they are expected, what is exactly they're gonna achieve? Like, what bringing down the money is one part of it, but then will they be able to do enough to show something against, some value against, this particular amount of money? Is that something also which they have come up with? Like, is there a plan now that, okay, this is what we are gonna do with this money?
They've said what they're going to do with the money, which is to get, select a certain amount of more older homes to get these, what's it called, 10B, some B form, I don't remember the exact number, but get them done. And I think the one thing it does give you an opportunity is, if they come back next year for funding, then you can say, well, how many did you do? What have we gotten out of it? What have we learned from it?
Sure.
I think at this point, they already thought it was a good idea to get lots more done. But I like the idea of doing some and seeing where you go with it. So I don't follow them close enough to know what they may, I'm not even sure how many times they've met since we met with them. But I know when they came to the select board, they proposed the lower number.
If they get 15, of these documents done, it'll be 30 times the pace they've had over the last 2 years. And I think you're 100% right. There's value to this town, and values itself in part on its historical merits. Let's ask them informed questions once they've really been able to see what they can do with this. And then we can make a better informed decision about the net value to the town at a much more reasonable cost, in my humble opinion. So,
Thank you.
I have a question, and I'm not sure who to really ask, but if my memory serves right, something like 80% plus of the historic homes have already had this done in town.
There was.
It's like that last 20% that they're
Like
trying to get the
537
money
or
to do.
587, yeah.
Am I missing that? Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. It seems like the value proposition could be perhaps shown with the 80% that have been done already.
Yeah.
Well, they do find value in them, apparently.
Well, I understand. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, that's just my opinion.
I'm just
I mean,
thinking about the value of doing more of them, and particularly in the more modern era, a lot of those that were done were 25, 30 years ago.
Pre-internet.
Yeah, that too.
yeah, I think that, to the point, there are some of them, people were looking at them, they were absolute crap. Like, and this is an opportunity
That's
to.
my point.
Yeah, no, fair enough. One would hope that the new.
I thought you were taking it the other way.
No.
One would hope that the new stuff that they're doing is something they're going to be able to be much more informed and
Something of
actively
value,
involved
okay.
about.
All right.
So
You know?
the 80% will not have value, but the new 20% will? Is that where you're?
I mean, that's the argument you're making, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Walt or somebody's making. I mean, I think at this dollar amount, you might be compelling me to give it a shot, but, so
I
I
would
think you might have
suggest-
turned me.
I would
Yeah,
suggest
But I
that,
asked.
It's also, there's a volunteer committee of individuals who are charged with doing history-related items. Not only did they come down on this number, their secretary retired, and they've given up that position, and working with the, probably, I think it's, I want to say, Community Development Department, probably to support that. So I feel like they've gone out of their way to be cooperative with the town in terms of finances. And as a committee of that many people, to have a additional amount to try something they want to do, I think is fair at this level. I didn't think it was right at the 24,000, but I'm okay with it at the 5.
So, you know, after the meeting, if they had come back and said 5,000, I would have said, great. The only thing that has me hesitant now is, and I don't have my budget book in front of me, they have expenses of around $6,000,
They have an annual expense budget, which.
and they haven't been spending it. So, you know, if it's that important, let's use the 6,000 towards that as opposed to,
Well,
I mean, it'd be nice to have a reserve fund so they could carry it from year to year. That's the hard part, but,
And their expenses also are sometimes asynchronous events, because they
Right.
get called into things that
right.
they don't predict, so, but,
Right.
yes, you're right. They do have, I
course.
think they paid for the one that they talked about doing last year out of the expense
Of course,
budget,
their
yeah,
unspent $6,000 from last year closed into free cash,
which
Right.
would pay for.
Which
the
is
which will
article.
pay for this.
That said,
All right.
how are we gonna feel if they show up here May 30th and say, well, we've got this sudden thing and we need $6,000 because we spent all our money on these forms that you just said maybe they should spend them on this year, right? So I mean, I get, it closes out to free cash, and now they don't have to worry that some unexpected thing will come up and they spent all their money on a project rather than.
Yeah.
my last observation is that the investment here isn't just on the pieces of paper. We have a group of people, to your point, that are more energized and actively involved. If they can, in a better, more comprehensive way, explain what the benefit is and how they're gonna push it forward with everything that's been done, I think that's the opportunity we're building here. For me, this is an investment in the people. Volunteer, God bless them, I love that, but that's not the thing. We're building expertise and folks who are becoming more committed in this, and I'd like to have a deeper conversation about this next year, so
Great.
there's that thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will make a motion to, is it a free cash?
It
It
is.
is free cash.
It's a free.
We recommend the town support Article 14 with $5,000 of free cash for the purpose stated in the warrant.
Bradley, second?
And let me just find where I left lines for this. Here we go. Okay, so we're back. All right. Okay. Then any further discussion?
So you swayed me.
I was about,
Me too.
Me too.
I mean, I like
my
the
age, when I
argument that they
sway,
didn't
I
spend it
fall
last
over.
year, so give it to them this year.
In my mind, we're just giving them last year's unspent budget.
Exactly.
That I can live with.
yeah, exactly.
And so my big thing comes down to we have an active and engaged group of volunteers.
People, yep.
And the last thing I want to do is have them show up the first year and we beat them down and say, well, we can't possibly spend
Exactly.
last year's budget. I think we encourage them and we let them come back to, Andrews, come back next year and show us
Yeah.
what you did with it.
Right, hold them to a higher standard
Yeah.
next year, but they've had a chance.
Yeah.
And in a not too subtle reference to other articles on this warrant, where other people are asking for money as well, small money, under like around $3,500 for.
4,500 for the
The
restocking.
interest here is actively involved and very engaged in the town.
Yep.
And that's not a light point that I've made to say that about what we're doing here. So.
I agree. I totally agree. Like, while I was pretty much swaying between the fact that this is unusual here, where we have to be very fiscal responsible, versus the point that we want to encourage more of these kind of initiatives for our town to just figure out exactly what kind of value add that comes up with. So, Yep, I agree.
I like the fact they actually listened to us.
I'm only willing
Which
to
is pretty
keep
rare.
supporting it if we vote on it
Yeah,
and stop
let's vote.
talking about it.
Gene's gonna change.
Bradley,
the
second.
vote. We're gonna move on.
For a motion that we all agree, we're spending a lot of time talking about it.
Ahuja, yes.
Beth?
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Oh, Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Okay, so we are 8-0-0 now in favor, and that's how it will be in the book. Very good, and I'll let them know, and they'll be probably pretty happy about that. Okay, next on the docket, I have Article 32. Oh, no, it can't be Article
32 is the zoning.
That's the wrong one. No, we're hearing about that on Monday.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
yeah.
it can't be 32.
33?
Down in there.
You into the citizen petitions?
Oh, no, I was just off by one. We want to do the 31, which is amend the general bylaws for the wetlands. And we had a small presentation on this at the all-day. I mean, I went through it. I think they did a really good job in making something that's a lot more readable than the original, and clear. And we weren't looking for more information on this at the time. I wanted to wait before because I wanted a chance to read through it, 'cause it's a bunch of pages, but at least I'm convinced at this point that I thought they did a good job rewriting it, and it is much easier to understand in the current format. So if we get a motion, then we can continue discussion, I guess.
McMahon, I move to recommend the town vote to amend the general bylaws, Article 32, non-zoning wetlands protection, as written in the warrant, Article 31.
Bradley,
Oh,
second.
that's why I called it
Yeah.
32. It's Article 32 of our
I feel like they
bylaws,
should have put
but
it
it's our,
somewhere
yeah, I
with
mean,
a
who
more
does this?
different
Yeah, that's-
number.
Yeah, that's on the select board
It
there.
sent
Like
me,
number 31, for example.
okay, so it's 31.
Bradley,
I'm
yes?
voting.
Excuse me, Bradley, second.
Bradley,
Yeah.
second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Okay, that's 8-0-0. Okay, next up, all right. So next, I want to talk about our non-binding petitions. I want to hold off on the one binding one at the moment, the Afro-Caribbean Festival. And I want to talk about the non-binding ones. Rod has proffered the concept that we heard when I think we did Columbus Day, we saw a similar thing, whether, since these are opinions, should we just, let people make up their minds on opinions? And Jean had another theory. So first thing I want to get out of our committee is a consensus of whether we will vote on the non-binding resolutions or ballots or not. Vote recommendations on the thing, so I'm open to hearing opinions on it.
It's an echo of what we had with Columbus Day.
Yeah.
It's the exact same argument, if I recall. There's no fiscal impact, so does it fall under our purview or?
Well, no, it's not that there's no
No.
fiscal, because zoning laws and other things
Okay,
don't have
yeah.
fiscal.
We vote things
It
without
was
fiscal
more,
impact all the time.
Yeah.
it's an opinion.
Yeah.
I think we should make a recommendation, because I think that, in particular, a lot of these are incredibly offensive, and I think I want to be very clear that we're not willing to have this be part of town, or we don't want to encourage it. I mean, yes, some of them are opinions, but they're pretty far out.
Okay. Jean, I know you expressed.
I mean, I agree with Beth, specific to these articles, but I also feel that it's the job of the Advisory Finance Committee to make recommendations on the warrants in town meeting. And you know, this is on the warrant, so we should make a recommendation, and if people don't feel comfortable, they can abstain. So,
I would agree.
Well, that
I
was the
think that
punchline. You can abstain.
we all have the option of abstaining, and I feel, I mean, it is our responsibility. We weigh in on non-financial articles all the time, and so to make an argument that this is somehow different doesn't make sense to me.
I think it's more that it's an opinion poll, not that it's non-financial. I think that.
Right.
Right, yeah.
But, I mean, I'm saying sort of in terms of the technically, just because it says it's not binding, right, like,
I would like
yeah,
to
I mean, I
have
get
opinion
it,
heard.
and because I do
we should-
think
I
that
mean, the-
these, to some extent,
Okay.
I don't really consider them to be legitimate articles, right? Some of them aren't legal, right? Certainly, and so I could see that argument.
binding, they wouldn't be legal.
Right. But, so I can see the argument and I can see why it's worth having the conversation.
Yeah.
But I agree with Jean. People have the ability to abstain if they don't want to vote, but I think
Okay. So
we,
it seems like we have a majority, but Ron,
Yeah, I
would you
mean,
like to
I-
make your point?
Yeah, I guess, and, you know, if everybody's voting, I'm voting, it doesn't make sense. I
Okay.
wouldn't want somebody to interpret and abstain that I didn't have an opinion on it. So,
Yeah.
to me, it's more, I really hate the thought of encouraging, this type of, article,
Mhm.
by giving it having any debate about it. I mean, I guess that's, that was my frustration, that,
Yep.
it didn't, by more we debate it, the more,
You
more
give
they.
attention
to
more-
it.
Yeah,
Legitimacy.
exactly. So
I
that-
agree with you
that-
100%
that-
there.
That would be my only
Yeah.
hesitation.
I mean, I hadn't really considered it that way, but you're right. So is there, are we giving them some measure of legitimacy by even going through the act of debating and voting?
We
Or
don't have to
abstaining.
debate, there's no requirement
That's
to
true.
debate. We can just strictly vote
Well, and
it.
I think that's how we,
And-
ideally, I think that's how we would have handled the meeting Monday, is everybody
Right.
just
Right.
move on.
And I understand your comment about worrying about abstaining,
Yep.
but if you
Yeah.
chose to abstain, you could have a comment about why you abstained,
Yep.
which would be,
Yep.
to me, as strong,
That might
as
even be
strong or
stronger.
stronger a statement.
If Rod abstains from every single vote, and here's why. Not even worth
I'm
our
just,
time.
you know,
I'm serious.
true.
That's an interesting
I mean, it is,
talking point at the
because
podium.
we print comments both for and, right, we explain why we voted the way we did. There's the opportunity to say I abstained because I didn't think it was,
This doesn't even merit conversation. That's an interesting.
maybe we
statement.
shouldn't phrase it
I don't think you
that
probably
way.
meant
Oh, come on.
I second that.
That was the conversation.
That's not a trivial thing, because there's a notion that silence suggests complicity, but I think in this case, silence suggests our support of the democratic process. Like, it's there, the opinions that whether or not we like them, they're allowed to be heard. There's a place for them, but we're just not going to feed them any longer than they need to. That's what our silence. Our vote is our voice.
Right. And I think as a general thing, I don't, the reason I was in favor of having that meeting Monday was I feel that the process of allowing citizens
Yeah.
petitions is important, and
Mhm.
therefore the citizen, even if they only have 12 signatures, should have at least their 10 minutes or whatever we gave kind of each person in the end to discuss it. But it's certainly,
Well, I mean, I fundamentally agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Because the process itself has value and is right. And so I don't want to undermine the process by saying, well, your suggestion's ridiculous, so you don't even get to tell us about it. So I think you're right. Like, we have to honor that process regardless of how we feel about a particular article.
okay. Do we need, do we need to
think
vote
about
them
them?
individually? The one thing I will say, what Alan said about the affordable housing units location, if that was amended to remove the word equal and just say distributed through the town, then I would be in favor of that specific one. The problem with the word equally is it sort of implies you'd be able to stop doing them because somehow you're not uniformly distributed across the town, which seems, since they're put in by opportunity of either new development or ability to purchase, that just it equally doesn't
Right.
really apply there, and it's the wrong word.
There's also no metric for equal.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Right, it doesn't
So,
define
as-
it, it
as
doesn't
it's written
establish
in the
how you
warrant,
would.
And of course, if there was a motion, I'm hoping those are to a minimum, but during town meeting, if those change, we can revote.
Well, and so it
because
did
we're
bring up the
sitting
question
there.
for me, right, how many people are going to suggest we amend these different articles on town meeting floor?
Well,
And so I think there
it
is the
depends.
potential that we end up revoting
Right,
different ones
well,
on the
that's fine,
floor.
but if John's potential theory of how this will go, at least that time comes out of the total, so
Right.
we'll see. Okay,
We could
so
try voting them all at once.
is there any objection to voting them as a block?
Rod, I assume you have one you're gonna, at least
Right.
one you're gonna vote differently, yeah.
I love the idea of voting them as a block in order to not give them extra airtime.
Okay, so,
Rod has one.
Rod, you like the stormwater
Yeah.
thing, so,
I can vote all the block
okay.
except the stormwater.
okay,
Yeah.
well, that's how we'll do it, just like they do the budget. So, we will now vote on Articles 34, 35, 36, 37, 38.
Is there any reason not to include 33?
Yes,
Okay,
there's potentially, first of all,
Okay.
it's a binding article.
all right.
And second of all, there may be a different, something going on with that one. So I'd just like to hold off.
Yep.
Probably till Monday or Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 43, 44, 45, 46, all but 42 from that block.
So you're leaving out 33 and 42?
33 is on hold, and 42 we're going to talk about in a minute, yes. So
Okay.
the motion would be, I guess we might sounds like we might as well go to a
Yeah.
motion to recommend the town defeat. I don't hear a
Yeah.
lot of
I
clamor
think
the other
we
way,
start
so
with
you could
So
say yourself.
McMahon, I move to recommend the town defeat Articles 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 43, 44, 45, and 46 as written in the warrant.
Is there a
Clap second.
second? Clap, okay. Any further discussion? I think we discussed it enough on Monday night. Okay, so this is a motion to defeat, effective which, I'm sorry, motion to recommend the town vote against, sorry. Or defeat, either way, but it's our recommendation, so just to be clear for that. So a vote yes is
we have a
a
second?
vote
To
against.
defeat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ahuja, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
That's 800. Okay, so now let's talk about the stormwater tax. Understanding Rod's not a fan of it. My support of this is really, it's something we just voted last year for. We haven't even had a chance to see it.
Experienced it.
And I think it's, well, for all the reasons we talked about last time, I think it's a good way to pay for these things. It actually, yes, it's a different tax, but it's in principle for the same amount of money spent on stormwater, reduces our property tax from, because we're
Resident.
residential versus industrial. And I think the car lots out on Route 9, who have tons of impervious area, paying more for stormwater is a fine thing with me, versus the residents who might just have a small house and a driveway. So I think it's a novel method of doing it, but it is just in its infancy, and I would be more inclined to think 3 or 5 years from now, when we've had a chance to see how it works, to do it. And my problem with this citizen's petition is it's, first of all, non-binding,
so it's an opinion poll, which is fine. But it also will be without all the information that the other article came with.
So one question I had, what would have it taken to make it binding? Why couldn't it have been why couldn't have a citizens petition vote to, or
I
put an
don't-
article before to rescind?
This one, I believe, could have, because it was
Yeah.
clearly an article in the
Right.
town meeting's purview.
Yeah.
Probably one of the only ones.
Yeah.
I don't know, is John still here? Maybe he would.
I suspect that there's language you would need to use. Oh, I'm sorry.
What, yeah, why?
Still here. I don't know because this isn't one that I ever saw until the petition was submitted, so I don't know.
They might have just gone it way.
I mean, given that the stormwater fee or whatever was approved by town meeting, I'm assuming at some point it could be disapproved by town meeting, but I don't know exactly what the wording would be to do that, but I didn't see this one or have any discussions with anybody asking for help about this one until it showed up, so I don't know what the backstory is.
Yeah.
So I guess just to voice my concerns,
Sure.
you know, it's kind of a made-up way of figuring out how to charge people for something, and it's something, you can't turn off your spigot or your sewer or, you know, any of those things, and, you know, one of the things I've realized, there seems to be a large administrative portion of trying to do this, and we're not seeing any benefit of cost savings on the DPW side of things, although supposedly 20,000 moved over. So I think I think we're paying a premium to establish something to distribute money differently between businesses and residential. And if that's really our goal, then we should have a split tax rate and do it more, not try to hide what we're doing. Or make it more, not hide's the wrong word, more visible or understandable what we do.
So, accepting all of those points that you made, do you think that this methodology, though not perfect, is a more equitable representation of the causes of the need for the storm drains, meaning the lack of permeable surfaces and stuff like that?
I think most of our permeable surfaces and storm drainage is relative to roads and highways, which have
Mhm.
little to do with property.
Be that as it may, this is, other people have permeable, non-permeable surfaces as well. You can't just say, well, it's all roads and highways, therefore we shouldn't do this. I mean, at the moment, the
So,
tax
I
burden
mean-
would be carried by more of the places that that have this surface that's causing the problem.
Yeah, no, to me it's a stretch.
Okay.
And, I still wonder what's gonna happen when the churches see their first bill and realize that part of their tithings is now going to stormwater tax.
Well, won't be very long now.
We'll flow soon enough.
Okay, anything else? All right, so let's vote on that.
Oh, we don't have a motion.
Let's motion on that. Jim.
McMahon, I move to recommend the town pass over Article 42 as written in the warrant.
Defeat?
Second.
Pass over or
No,
defeat?
I'm sorry.
Recommend they defeat.
Defeat. I recommend the town defeat Article 42 in the warrant.
Dolan second.
Yeah, if we passed over it, then,
We generally don't do,
yeah, I don't think,
most things we don't do
Yeah.
passovers because voting to defeat it is the
Right.
same
Well, but
thing.
most of them aren't
And the
this, where
ones
we
that you
don't want to
pass,
give the
the
legitimacy, which is why I
passover is,
question.
right,
Yeah.
if you, like Amber said, the proponent comes and says,
Right.
I move you pass over, because you're not defeating it, because they're withdrawing it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was just questioning, right, where we,
Did you?
Yeah, I'll
given
second
the
that.
context of our earlier argument, right, like, could somebody get up and make a motion to pass over
Oh,
as
well,
each
I
one?
think
On
you're.
I'm
the
assuming-
town meeting floor, not us.
I don't think
just, it was a
John takes
question.
those when there's a motion, that you can just vote to defeat it.
Yeah, if somebody makes a motion to pass over, I would probably stop and have a discussion about whether it just adds confusion about having to explain to people why a yes to pass over is the same thing as voting no, or if
Right.
there's a specific
Or
reason
confusing.
why it's different. Because the history of it is probably about 13 or 15 years ago, we started moving away from passing over unless passing over is either because there's no point in making it, because the action isn't necessary anymore, like Amber discussed earlier, if that happens, or if there's a specific difference for why passing over, which is taking no action, would be different than a no vote, because what my predecessor had found and what I've agreed with over time is that I think if somebody moves to pass over just because they want to have a more delicate way of saying no, I think almost invariably somebody gets confused no matter how many times it gets explained, and then after the fact thinks they vote the wrong way.
Yeah.
But if somebody makes it, I'll talk about that in the context and make sure that I understand it before I decide whether to accept the motion or.
I think it adds up confusion. Okay, so we're not confused. Our motion is to recommend the town defeat it, and we'll vote now for Sean.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
Okay, so on that one, we are 7-1-0. Okay, very good. And I think that's it for voting for tonight.
Do you want
Alright.
the binding one now?
No,
Okay.
no, I want to wait. I'm waiting to get a little more information on something with that article. So I want to hold on to that one. And I will tell you at future meetings, on Monday, we're going to have the planning department here and Mark Silverberg from the planning board, as well as Jenny Gingras from the planning department, our director of planning. We're going to then vote and discuss the 3 articles related to the planning department, which are Articles 24, 25, and 32. So we're getting close to having voted all the articles. I believe Mark wanted to give us a little more information on the Acquire Zero Bowman. And I think we're ready to vote that now because I think we have the numbers for that. The golf building, I haven't seen an actual
I
motion
think we're looking for
that
the
yet.
percentages of.
Yeah, we're
what-
still waiting for the percent, so that may have to wait. And we're kind of, this municipal decarbonization study was also waiting for the real numbers. So we're getting close to being done with article voting. The big thing the big cheese for Monday will be digging into the budgets. Christy and John will be here. We will do a process similar to town meeting. Go through the budgets and see which ones have questions on them that need to be voted separately. And then discuss and vote the block that doesn't, and then vote the other ones, or discuss and vote the other ones. I'm expecting, or hoping by Monday, there'll be all sorts of new updates to the budget to begin with. One is we should have, I think yesterday or so, they were gonna get their number on their borrow, and that affects the budget directly, because then it's a real number instead of an estimate. And any other final adjustments, I think they're going to, they've gone forward far enough with Youth and Family Services that they're gonna be able to switch that budget from what was just
Salary.
all salary to expense, so we can see that one for real for the kind of first time too. And it's, from what I heard, was that it? That was at Civic Club, or was it
Yeah.
at the?
No,
I
you're
forget
right.
which meeting.
Tuesday.
We heard
Yeah.
from Christy. She came to Civic Club too, so it's a little confusing. But that it's about the same number as the total is today. Okay, and in addition to all this, if I get some numbers from them before the weekend, I hope to have at least started the draft on the R&R message, because we really got to wrap that up between Monday and Thursday. Thursday, we have to approve the R&R, because I have to have it to the printer on Monday, which is before our Monday meeting, which we may or may not have. And so, that's about it. That's all story. And also, I started sending out what I started writing about all the articles, so if there are any comments on what was written as to our opinion, please get those to me too. I'm going to obviously add in some of these and see whether I can pull that off on the ones that we just did.
Do you have any questions about the ones we just did, or need any
Yeah,
information?
well, I'd like to just briefly go back to there was the school ones really on, and let's clarify why, for instance, the majority voted against, and I'd just like to collect a couple reasons if I could. People aren't too tired. It is 10 after 9, but either that or I gotta make it up.
So there was the-
Tonight, or we'll spend a few more minutes
Okay.
one of the next couple of nights.
So, I mean, I sort of talked about with Amber about why I was against the Mill Pond.
So let me paraphrase, but I think you're thinking we could just let it go 10 years and then redo it then completely? Yeah,
Well, based on the existing roofs, we could let it go 25 years and then redo it completely versus,
so
putting
this
a
is
membrane
on
on
This
now
is on
to
all the
get-
restore roofs.
right. Well, it's just Mill Pond and
Yeah, restore
And-
roofs, I meant.
restore roofs, yeah,
Yeah,
and the
there's
sea
two.
wing, yeah.
But even if you got 15 more years, right, even if they lasted
Yeah.
significantly less, it's still a better value to not have done it, wait 15 years and then do the complete roof replacement.
Right.
Okay, so you prefer the value of waiting and repairing versus the
Waiting, maintaining, and repairing.
Right.
waiting. Yeah.
Well, and so
With
to
the-
Rod's point,
with-
there might be additional cost in maintaining in the meantime, but I still think that that's a
Sure.
better use of funds. And if we're wrong and they need to replace it in
Sooner.
10 years,
Yeah.
then it's sort of a risk that's worth taking, but in looking at our tax increase this year, even if we only kick the can down the road a few more years, it might make more sense.
Okay. I'll try and get something out of that. And then, covered that one. And Rod expressed himself on the roof replacements and the first one, I think, pretty clearly, so I think I'm okay with that. So, yeah, the
And the ones
large.
we're supporting, it's obvious why we're supporting the replacements.
Okay, so, but there was more support, is there more support, because the C Wing, we did end up supporting restoration, and is that because it's the idea of doing the whole high school in one shot versus in other words, on Mill Pond, it got rejected 5-3. The other restoration got in favor 5-3, so some of you guys changed votes, and I'm wondering,
You're looking at me, it wasn't me.
hypothesizing. No, I can tell you who it is if you're not gonna fess up. but-
From my point of view, it's just a matter of spreading this cost out over a longer period of time. I think we entrust all the departments to be custodians of their budget and the plant and all the things they're responsible for, and they believe these need to be fixed. Sometimes we have to make tougher decisions and play Sophie's choice and push things off a little bit. Sophie had some tougher choices, to be clear, but this is just a matter of timing for me. I would rather, since we had to take on one additional project, to me, it's
Take
just,
off one project. And Mill Pond was the easier.
yes,
And I
in my
also
mind.
think maybe because we're doing all this other work at the high school, it's probably good to do the design work and
Yep.
find out what you're in for, I guess. That is one scary part about, you add those 3 design costs up and you multiply by 10 of how much
the actual repair is, and it's on the ilk of like $7 million or something.
So that for me was another, right, so if we
Yeah.
do it all at once, then we look at the next phase all at once, and that's a huge price tag.
Right.
And it's back to the conversation that we've all had more than once, and how do we spread out these roofs?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
How do we get out of the cycle where every school roof needs to be replaced in the same summer? I mean, I know
Well,
that
some
that's
of
a
us are
little
old
bit of
enough
a
that it might not
dramatic, but
Some of you are young
it's gonna be an
still.
issue for me still, so I'm really concerned
We're
about
worried
spreading them
about
out.
you.
Those 40-year roofs.
40 years gonna do it for me.
I mean, the C-wing roof restored design, I mean, that's gonna, what they're talking about doing is another seal coat on that, which I'm like, I'm not in favor of the seal coat, so why would I be in favor of wasting the money on the design for the seal coat?
Right.
Is kind of the way I'm thinking.
Right.
I agree.
Well, and I think that's why 3 people still said no, but I'm
Yeah, no,
just
I
saying there
understand.
was,
Just-
there
yeah,
was
so-
a change of,
But two people who weren't in favor of the Mill
Right.
Pond, which, to be clear, we've already spent design money on, and I was in
Right.
favor of it last year to spend the design money on it.
You did vote in favor of it
I
last
did,
year?
yeah. But I've changed my mind, and some of it might have to do with the, prioritizing the timing and,
And I just think that big prioritizing and timing has to be a big factor in any of these projects.
So, conspiratorially speaking, there's one perspective, if you took the school, just like, if you took them at their word, they're doing it in the best interest of the kids and the projects and stuff like that, so health and safety and all that. What would be their reason for doing that if it wasn't that? Like, I guess, why would they want to seal coat something if they didn't think that that was in the best interest of the kids? And I'm saying this not,
I gotta be honest, I asked Amber point blank, I told her
Yeah.
how I was feeling and asked her point blank, am I missing something, changed my mind, and she basically was like, yeah, no. I mean, I didn't see her out there saying like, oh yeah, I stand behind this 100% and we need
I
to
think
do
what she was
this.
saying is you had a reasonable opinion.
No,
don't
I
think it's black and
understand,
white.
but when with the Hastings roof, it needs, she was very
Yeah.
clear, it needs to be done now, I'm not willing to wait a year, that puts the
Right.
kids at risk. With the Mill Pond, she's like, yeah, I mean, my impression was, and again, I'm putting words in her mouth, but it seemed to me like if Hastings had come up before they spent the money on the Mill Pond design to put the seal coat on, it would not be on the warrant this year.
Right.
That was
I
the
mean-
impression I got from her, so.
I mean, I think part of it is, the problem with having, we say when it fails, we'll fix it, is, the school could be closed for a week, you lose material, all those things that sort of could happen at Hastings, and that's the big concern about waiting on that further. So I don't think they would have any motive other than this makes it less likely that something like that would happen. So,
I mean, I think that's it, right? They're just trying to get
Right.
ahead of the maintenance, right? They're trying to get ahead of the maintenance, and it just comes down to, from a financial perspective, I don't think that, what is the phrase? The juice is worth the squeeze, right? Like,
right.
I think that they're just trying to get ahead of maintenance. They're trying to ensure that they don't have another
Yeah.
Hastings in 3 years. And we're saying, well, you might have another Hastings in 3 years. Let's roll the dice because the cost is high. And I think that it's really to Walter's point, and I mean, as a parent who has a kid at Hastings, I am also worried about the school disruption.
Mm-hmm.
But they're looking at, they have a different perspective than just the taxpayer who has to say, well, is this the price tag I want to pay this year? They're weighing that with how many days might these kids be out of school and what does that look like operationally?
so it's a risk aversion. The belief
what
is
I
that they
feel.
have a higher risk aversion
Yeah, they're
okay, so it's
lower.
not an ulterior
They're
motive.
far
like-
greater.
Right.
Okay.
No,
impact.
oh, certainly not.
Okay.
I certainly don't, and not suggesting they have an ulterior motive.
I have
Okay.
zero
not.
doubt that our school staff and school committee have our students' best interest in mind. And it just comes down to, from a financial perspective, I have a difference in opinion in terms of what is the appropriate level of risk in this situation.
Okay.
And I think that's why she didn't argue adamantly, because I think you
Yeah.
can look at this and say, yeah, this is one way that we don't have to worry about for 20 years. And some people like buying insurance more than others.
Right.
And some people say, yeah, you know, if,
See where it comes
my
from.
car gets crashed, I'll figure out how to get another one. So I think that roof thing is more of like an insurance decision than it is an absolute.
Yeah.
black
But
and
It's
white.
risk
I-
tolerance. I think
I
it's
also,
your-
and
yeah.
not to beat a dead horse,
Yeah.
as I've said it many times, if they had gotten an independent opinion, they might have reached a different decision.
Yeah, but I mean, we're all influenced by the people that we already respect opinions of or
Right,
whatever.
right,
So
right, right.
I can't
Yep.
fault them for that
Yeah.
either. Okay, that's enough for tonight. I don't think we're in a different board. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Shafford, motion to adjourn.
Bradley second.
Bradley seconds.
Ahuja, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, Westboro TV.
We
Good
didn't
night.
have to wake up Beth for the adjournment this time.